What's up, everybody? Sinful Pandora here, and I am going to talk a little bit today about some tips for farming an Ark and breeding and setting up your first farm and your long-term farm and just setting up your breeding grounds in general. And I'm going to do that by giving a little bit of a tour of my tribe's current breeding ground and farm and kitchen area, basically. And this will also be an update for those keeping up with the YouTube series because we've made a lot of progress that's not really been updated in the episodes yet. So yeah, let's get into it. I think, as you can see, we've set up a pretty big area for our kind of breeding ground. We set up a whole tree platform, then we even built foundations out from that. Now, I don't think you need this big of an area or anything like that. We just kind of wanted it for aesthetic purposes. Is that RG really going to come bother me? Don't do it. Don't do it. Anyway, we just kind of wanted it to be sort of the entry from the ground level going up into our tree platform base that we were doing. And we just like having a lot of the space. I do think wherever your space is that you dedicate to breeding, you should have a feeding trough, obviously, because you're going to have creatures out a lot and you don't want your creatures starving to death. And so I think even early on, you want to have a feeding trough. You want to line your creatures up, obviously, close enough so they're able to breed. And you want to have a preserving bin, or in our case, we have fridges that are actually color-coded for the type of kibble and the type of egg that produces that kibble. So that's superior. It's like a dark purple. Here are all the eggs that produce superior kibble, as well as some of our superior kibble there. Obviously, that's a little bit later game, but let me just go take care of this thing. That's a little bit later game, but okay, really. Well, that messed everything up. So anyway, the fridge is later game, but you can have something like a preserving bin to catch your initial eggs. You're not going to have eggs that produce things like superior kibble and all of that right away. So you're going to be fine to just keep whatever few eggs you have in a preserving bin with some spark powder that you've mixed up in a mortar and pestle. So just keep that near so that you can just throw eggs in right away. And also, it's good to have near because eggs are really heavy, and especially before you've put levels in, it can be a huge pain to carry them a super long distance. So, and especially if you don't have any kind of mods on for helping you with weight, or you don't have any kind of buffed weight stats. So just keeping that near is a good idea. Plus, I just like to keep all the things that I'm gonna need in one place. So yeah. Obviously, we do have to come get our eggs whenever we want to actually take them to a cook pot to make kibble. I'm fine with that because our cook pot's actually right up there. It's actually right up these stairs and in this room. Ignore the frame drops. It's happening because there's these like oversized doors opening from a mod we have, as well as some cosmetic lighting. But anyway, right in here we have the cook pot. I don't think that that's too far to carry it, especially because we do have some stacking mods and we do have some weight reduction mods, so I don't think it's too bad. That might be the third RG today that's going to come mess with us. But anyway, we'll see if we can get through this. I've been having a lot of bad luck with game crashes and stuff, so hopefully we can do this. So I'm not going to move all the berries, but I moved the Rexes just to simply get to this person right here. Varla's what we've named her. It's our Oviraptor. And this is going to be one of my big tips, is to get yourself a Varla. To get yourself an Oviraptor. And there's a game crash. For whatever reason, every time I have been accessing Varla's inventory, the game's been crashing. So, be right back. Alright, we're back, and I'm not going to access Varla's inventory again because it seems to be cursed, and every time I do, the game crashes, but yeah, I probably need to take some eggs off of her, but I don't really think that's the reason. But either way, the point is I would get an Oviraptor. They pick up eggs that fall on the ground from, well, really anything in the area, but from creatures that are breeding. They pick up eggs, so you don't have to be around constantly picking up eggs. You can go off, you can do caves, you can do tames, whatever. When you come back, the Overwrapped will have picked up the eggs. It's not a perfect system. It does miss some. You do have to set them to wander. They will over encumber themselves. Sometimes I like to put the Overraptors in a little pen. We actually had a little fin set up for her, but then it got broke the other day, and we just haven't rebuilt it. But yeah, so you're gonna want to set them on wander and just put one or, you know, a couple even once you get a bigger area like this. We probably should have another one over here, but, you know, either way, just let them wander, or like I said, put them in a fence near where your creatures are going to drop the eggs. They don't have to actually go up to the eggs or anything like that. It's a radius, and that radius is directly related to how high their levels are. So make sure that you do level something on them. Normally weight is what I go for, or just health, you know. Doesn't really matter to my knowledge. Just get the levels up there so that the radius is bigger for picking up eggs. I believe that's an ASA specific thing, but either way, very useful. It actually it increases the production speed of unfertilized eggs in all of your nearby tames, and you can see it with the little egg icon that's like flashing. So anything that's mate boosted, I should say, it's going to increase the unfertilized egg production. So very, very useful for kibble. And you can see it. You can make sure they're in range by all the little eggs that are flashing beneath the hearts. So yeah. They also, one thing I've noticed a lot of people don't know is that they also increase the feces laying rate of all the dinos nearby. So this is going to be another tip that ties into the farming aspect of it, but I highly recommend getting dung beetles. Right now we have one. Let me go find Chameleon over here. Right now we have one, and the reason that Chameleon is not near the dinos is because I'm going to actually get some Phiomias, and we'll talk about that in a second, but normally what you would want to do is, especially if you had an Overraptor that's increasing that feces production, you know, increasing how often they poop, you're going to want to have your dung beetles near your dinos that are pooping. Dung beetles are going to automatically pick up the poop, and then as long as it's, you know, close enough, and I do believe their levels, same as the Overraptor, I do believe their levels increase the radius in which they pick stuff up. But yeah, they're going to pick up poop, or you can put it on them, either way, and they're going to passively produce oil and fertilizer. One thing, and I don't know if this is a bug or intentional, but you cannot put more feces, like I cannot put that feces on them. I can put more fertilizer on them, but I cannot put feces on them. They have to pick it up. Like once I hit the weight, like I can't put any more. And I'm not even at the weight, but I guess this would weigh too much. It would put them over. So you can't over encumber them, basically is what I'm saying. So you have to just let them pick it up, but they will pick up more than what they can technically carry. So they will over encumber themselves and continue to pick it up, but you just can't put it on them. So if I had a Phiomia here, which is what I plan on doing, I can just force feed it Simberries and it's going to poop like crazy. And the dung beetle is just going to automatically pick that up. And I'm going to have 4 or 5 of them, and I'm going to have, I don't know, 1 or 2, Phiomias. You really don't need a bunch of Phiomias. And just force feed it Simberries, force it to poop. It'll pick all the poop up. It's going to passively generate oil, and it's going to passively generate fertilizer. And so the fertilizer that it generates is going to set you up, you know, whether you're getting it from your dinos naturally or you're force feeding, you know, a Phiomia, you're going to have fertilizer that sets you up for your crop plots, which gets into the actual, like, farming aspect. So obviously this is a huge greenhouse we built, and most of it's for aesthetic purposes, right? Because, like, you don't need a beehive in your greenhouse. But we just wanted to do this. So I have a crop plot here for every seed in Ark Survival Ascended, which there's more than there was in Ark Survival Evolved. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, 13 I thought, so I just want to check. Now, of these, most of them, actually, not most of them, but some of them don't even do anything at all. They just make dyes. So, for example, we can hover over it and see that this is a Verdberry seedling, which is these green ones like this. This doesn't do anything, to my knowledge, at least not yet, except for make dyes. So you really don't need this, and I would not start with this. I just planted one of everything because we're being excessive. But what I would really recommend is that you start with 4 different seeds: citronal, rocket, sable root, and long grass. And the reason being, these are the only 4 seeds, the only 4 like fruits, veggies, whatever I should say, that you cannot get from like a harvesting creature. Like you cannot take a trike out or a bronto out or anything out and just naturally get them. You have to grow them. And the seeds are like somewhat of a rare drop when you're harvesting with a harvesting creature. I actually don't think you can harvest these seeds by hand. Maybe you can. Let me know if that is possible, but I really don't think I've never seen that. Now, these crop plots look different than normal ones. This is because we have additional rustic structures. I think it's like a clinger mod. I'm going to do a mod video at some point in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out for that. I like them because they keep the fruits and veggies for a little bit longer. They stack higher. They keep them for a longer time period. They have more slots available, so I can fill them with fertilizer, which I really like. We haven't had this going for very long, so I've only got like 3 or 4 fertilizer in each, which is a good amount, but I normally would have like, you know, well, we will have like 10 in here. We will have like a lot of fertilizer in each one. But yeah, and also you can make them look different. You can make them look like a crop plot. You can make them look like a vase, or you can actually just plant directly in dirt. But anyway, when I hover over, you can see greenhouse effect. This is true whether it's for the mod or a normal plot. Greenhouse effect 300%. That's because we have greenhouse, you know, walls, roofs. There's no floor, so don't worry about that. Everything is surrounding, you know, it is fully enclosed in a greenhouse. Now, you need crystal and metal ingot, I should say, metal ingot to do this. So obviously there's nothing wrong with planting a little, you know, I don't know, planting like 4 crop plots, say, to get, if you have like a trike and you get some of these seeds to drop that we talked about, there's nothing wrong with planting those early on. But what I would say you should do, you know, if you don't have crystal, you don't have metal ingot yet, and you're really not ready for a greenhouse, you can still plant them, and you also don't even need the fertilizer set up yet, because you're not going to be able to get a dung beetle until you go to a cave. So that's fine. You can just put poop directly in here, and that works. It's just not as good. It just doesn't last as long. So, but you can still do that. They do have to be irrigated, so keep that in mind. But irrigation's easier because now you just need to, like in this case, we just have these metal water tanks set up, and they actually just have a range, which I can click show range, and you can see this kind of blue like orb. You used to have like pipes running from them to everything, or it's like a tap, and the tap had to be like basically right beside all of your plots. But now you don't have to. Now you can just do this. So irrigation's pretty easy. Or if your first house is on the beach, you can just build a metal, like I think it's like a metal or not metal, sorry, a stone intake pipe and like a tap, and that also has a range similar to the water tank, and it will irrigate your plots. When you hover over them, you can see that it says that it is irrigated. So 1199 of 1200. So basically fully irrigated, right? Or fully watered. So anyway, when you start out and you build your 4 crop plots, that's fine. One thing I would say to do is to just go ahead and set up some basic thatch or wood foundations, because the floor doesn't matter for your greenhouse. So just go ahead and put your plots on a foundation. That way you're able to add greenhouse walls as soon as you can to it, and you don't have to worry about picking up, crops that you've already took the time to grow. So just prepare for it by putting some kind of a floor down and making it so that you can add greenhouse walls as soon as you're able to, because it is going to help you a ton. And you're going to want these 4 that we talked about. Again, long grass, sable root, rocket, and citronal. You're going to want those to get started on kibble production. Because if we take a look at some of the kibble recipes, which I like that now it's shown in the cook pot. It was always shown, in the industrial cooker. It was always shown for me because I used S Plus and ASE, but if you didn't, then, you wouldn't have been able to see that. But now you can. So, for example, simple kibble takes 2 rocket. It's actually pretty easy to make, especially if you have like a beach base. You can start making this early on. Simple dinosaur egg, not really hard to get a hold of. lots of examples of that. I have a kibble sheep that I keep beside me, so let me look. Compies, Archaeopteryxes, Hesperonychus, which you can just find their eggs on the beach. Apaches, Oviraptors, we talked about that. Pagomastax, Trikes, yeah, so a lot of Pteranodons, so lots of easy, simple kibble eggs. And then obviously mejoberries, cooked fish meat, none of those things are hard, but if you don't have rock rot, you know, you don't have simple kibble, and simple kibble is going to help you out so much early on. So the sooner you start with this stuff, the better. And then here we go again with regular kibble, long grass. But another thing, and sable root, but another thing here is cooked meat jerky. So I highly recommend that, you know, once you have enough meat to live, you start really early on. I actually don't have any going right now because we're pretty sucked up. But you should, early on, you should start getting your preserving bins going and building a couple. Yeah, so you're going to want to start working on your jerky reserves pretty early on because they're used in a lot of kibble recipes, and they're also just useful to have on hand. So yeah, I guess really working on everything you need to get kibble production going would be the main thing that I would say you need to consider when setting up your farming and cooking area, right? And some of this extra stuff we've done, like making such a large space, setting up the individual fridges like this, that's not really necessary, but do think from the beginning about spacing, especially when you start on whatever you think is going to be like your main base for, like, you know, any amount of like a longer period of time. Really think about like where things are located. So another thing, what I mean by that is up here, I don't have the walls that I want yet. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to look better than this. But this is going to be some kind of like a hatchery or like nursery area where I actually have some AC units and fireplaces and stuff like that, so that I can change the temperature exactly how I want to hatch babies. And so I've put a fridge here, and the reason being because these eggs right here are eggs that I'm actually interested in hatching, and I've separated that out. And I feel like that's really important, right? Because I don't have to go through all of these eggs down here and think about, well, okay, which ones did I want again for hatching? Which ones did I want to use, you know, to make kibble from? It's also just a lot easier for my tribe mates because they know if there's eggs in there, or if they put eggs in there, either way, that they're good to make kibble with those. Just be careful if you use some kind of a cloud pulling resource, because typically cloud pulling resources have not really pulled eggs. Well, unless you've done some of the ones that have, like, you specifically type in the egg name that you want to transfer. But if you just say like, oh, I need a simple egg, it typically won't just pull, you know, any egg. But yeah, I highly recommend you just keep all of your dinos stored in one place, right? And I do really recommend a cryo fridge, because I know some people have opinions on that. All I'll say is your game performance is going to be so much better if you don't try to have 100 dinos packed in one little tiny breeding ground space. Like, your life is going to be so much easier. I think that's kind of the main tour. That's what this platform is going to be. Nursery over there, farm over there, little kitchen cooking area here, and then breeding grounds down below. And you know, you don't have to set yours up the exact same way, but putting all these things close together is gonna be pretty nice for you. Oh, I do just want to note real quick, again, this greenhouse does not need to be this big technically. It's mostly aesthetic, but I am gonna put both the dung beetles and Phiomias in here, but also I'm going to put beehives in here. And this is another thing you're going to want to get started for kibble. So you're obviously going to need to be able to traverse the redwoods with some confidence to take out a beehive and tame a queen bee. And then you're going to have to keep your beehive stocked with rare flowers. So, you know, you need to have a pretty good setup going before you're, you know, able to do all of that. But it is going to be really nice to have honey on demand for things like kibble and sweet veggie cake. And so, yeah, that is something that you're going to want to consider doing when you can. So, yeah. And again, so this takes giant bee honey. Also takes long grass, rock rot, and sable root. So again, you just keep seeing those, like, 4 seeds that I talked about earlier popping back up over and over again. So it's just very important to have those as part of your plan early on. So I think in here, that's what we're gonna do. You know, beehives, dung beetles. Oh, one more thing we're gonna do in here as well is we're gonna have some cages and we're gonna put echidnas in them, and that's going to be part of our cementing paste farm. Obviously, there's ways to go farm large quantities of cementing paste quicker, but if you just want a passive farm, echidnas are by far the best way to do that. And I do want to have a passive farm going on in our base. We also have some of the frogs to go take into the Redwoods cave once we get some more gas masks made, and we're going to go farm large quantities from there. And of course you can always raid beaver dams, but if you're going to set up like a big farming area, I really recommend getting some echidnas. Cannot go wrong with that. So I think those are my main tips and tricks. I'm always the person that kind of sets up the farming in all of the, I don't know, all the maps we play, all the games we play. I'm always the one that sets up the farming. I was gonna say in Ark, but it's actually not even in Ark. It's actually just in every game. I just like doing it. So yeah, honestly, if you guys have anything else that like you do differently or things I might have forgot, let me know, because I'm very interested in hearing about all the different ways that people set up their farms and like just what, I don't know, what tips you might have and what you might do different. So let me know if you like the video, like it, share it. If you have comments, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one, which will probably be the mod video, maybe another episode or two, and then the video covering all of the mods, which I'm really excited to get out to you guys. So yeah, peace.